Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Dr. Jason Lester. Dr. Lester, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Very happy to be here.
Man, it's a pleasure. Dr. Lester is a proud social worker who have been in the field for 15 plus years. He's also a faculty at the University of Denver, where he teaches social work in the graduate department. Also, he drives behavior through positive motivation, and he's also someone who motivates change. Dr. Lester, before we get into the conversation itself, I would love for you to share more about yourself and your experience before we start asking the questions, so the listeners can know more about you.
Well, first of all, before I even do that, thank you for just this opportunity. I am Jason Lester, Dr. Jason Lester. I'm originally from Decatur, Georgia. That is right outside of Atlanta. And I, born in Atlanta, raised in Decatur. And for as far as like just experience goes, I am a proud social worker. And I love the community. I love people in general. And I just want to avail myself to help as many people as possible. And it could be in an educational setting, it could be in a social work setting, or it could be just being a friend. But, I just feel that it's my ministry to help as many people as possible. As far as like my experience, it's mainly been in child welfare, advocacy for the unhoused community members, and education, higher education. That's pretty much been my go-to. That's really the fabric of who I am professionally.
Oh man, that's awesome. And working for and serving people, that's something that it's needed for one, but it takes someone who really cares to work for individuals to make sure their well-being is taken care of. So man, that's great that you are doing that type of work. And I've read some of the feedback from individuals who you have encountered with, and they are just impressed with the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making. And someone would say just recently about the work, that it was invaluable, the contribution you have made to their work. So I can just imagine the impact that you're having there in Colorado. Man, so before we get so far into, just your experience, so I want to start this conversation with what is the mindset or that it takes to make a positive impact?
The mindset is simple, and this is something that I live by. The most important person in the room is the other person. And ultimately, that has allowed for me to, in all of the different spaces that I've been in, I've tried to take myself out of being in the spotlight and put others in the spotlight. And by others, it could be on a micro sense, or it can be on a macro sense, or even a mezzo sense. If it's one-on-one and we're talking, I want to make sure that that individual knows that they're the most important person in the room with regard to positivity. If we're on a macro sense and we're looking at all of things such as policy, things that affect us all, ultimately, what I want to do is kind of take away a lot of Jason and listen to the voices of the people that I probably have never heard from. I think that I want to bring up privilege. I think that privilege is the ability to ignore the things that you have really nothing to do with. And I think that a lot of us benefit from that. But what I've learned is that by having an ear to hear what folks are going through, it's allowed for me to have better understanding of what folks are going through. So when I have that understanding, it then allows for me to have this positive outlook on like my students, the clients from a macro sense, and just like my friends everywhere. I just try to make the other person or persons or thing the most important thing in the room. And that's how I be positive.
And that's a great approach, because sometimes making someone feel valued give them the opportunity to share and even become more vulnerable, because sometimes if they don't feel valued, they may be going through challenges. And you may know more about this, being that you are in social work where you have to talk to people all the time, but making people feel valued. I think that's a great approach to life, because again, we see people, but we don't know all that they're going through. And if they feel comfortable talking to you, not just about the positives, but the negative, the challenges, I think we will be able to help more people. So I really appreciate that perspective, because sometimes you don't really get reminded that you should at times make the peer person that you're talking to feel important. Take it off you and give them the opportunity to share. And I think I came across this quote. I don't remember who said it, but once you find the affinity with the person, once you find what they like, you go deeper into what they like, and not so much about what you like. So you talk, if it's like sports, talk about sports. So I really appreciate that perspective. And it's a great reminder for us all, because we're dealing with people and we're meeting people, but we don't know what they're dealing with when we meet them. So I appreciate that. So that leads me to my next question. What advice do you have for the men listening and how they can play a role in creating positive change?
I several answers to this. One, I fear that we as men feel that we have to be absolutely perfect, that there can't be any blemishes, that there can't be any things that, we have to have this perfect persona. And what I've learned now is that it's our imperfections that truly make us who we are. And I just recently, I had the privilege of sitting around a table full of men, and we talked. And after about 30 minutes, after we stopped talking about, well, I got this new grill, or, I'm looking at getting this new Bronco, we started talking about real things. And
Yeah.
we started talking about the setbacks and how the setbacks have been setups for great comebacks. And now what I feel is that what I've learned is that the more vulnerable we are, and we are not the only ones going through the things that we're going through. Essentially, there are people that are going through the same crucibles that we're trying to endure. But instead of keeping it in, we need to talk more about it. And the safe spaces have always been the barbershop, but now the barbershop must transcend well beyond that brick and mortar. And I just think that we need to normalize talking about the setbacks and strategizing on how to overcome things. The other answer that I have is sending the elevator back down. For those of us that have ascended to levels of professional heights and have made it, have made it, essentially, it's very important that we kind of keep an eye on what's coming behind us, who is coming behind us. And then let's mentor, let's be in that person's corner. Let's do it and then celebrate, the success when folks are making it. And then if there are opportunities for improvement, be honest and transparent about that too. Because I don't think that we're doing anyone any favors if we're not being honest. But if you deliver feedback in a loving way, I don't see how it can be viewed as trying to set someone up for failure. So, I mean, those are my two responses to the awesome question that you
You know,
asked.
man, that's a great answer. The perspective, I really love that perspective of being vulnerable. Because as men, we grew up in an environment where we don't talk about our challenges. We don't talk about our setbacks. We don't talk about what we're dealing with, because that comes off as being weak. But for the past couple of years, I think we as men have becoming much better about talking about the challenges that we deal with, and realize that it's not a matter of weakness to be vulnerable with our challenges, because that really opens up even opportunities, because more people will be able to support us when they know about what we're dealing with, when they know about the challenges. So that's a great perspective, and it's becoming a bit more common to having these conversations, because as you mentioned, you were in a room talking about all of the things that you guys have. But when you start talking about the real things, the real challenges, you realize that, oh man, you know what? Maybe I'm not the only one, or that person is not the only person going through what they're going through. And the next point that you made that I really, really, really appreciate, and I think we need to do this like intentional, and that is, as you mentioned, to send the elevator back down. As Black men, we know that we have challenges. We know that there are certain places we don't have easy access to. And if we have the keys, the opportunities, the connections, we should making it our responsibility, an obligation to help the next person so they can go up, so they can leverage their ability, they can leverage their contribution. So I really appreciate those two perspectives of being vulnerable and send the elevator back down. We should be opening doors for each other. So I really appreciate that. So that leads me to my next question. How can we, as Black men, help to change the narrative? I know you mentioned that we should send the elevator back down and have these conversations, but how can we help to change the narrative? And you can choose whichever area that you want to choose.
When I think about, Dr. Cross, when I think about how we can change the narrative, honestly, I've got a buddy, his name's Keith Weston, and he always says, keep showing up. And it's three simple words, but when we put these words together, it's powerful because so many times people, regardless, want to throw in the towel on their hopes, their dreams, their ambitions. I heard someone saying that the cemetery is the richest place in the world because all of people's dreams, hopes, ambitions, they're all buried with them, and they did not die empty. Essentially, they died having a business plan, having some kind of idea that they wanted to do, but unfortunately, time caught up with them.
Right.
I just believe now that the whole keep showing up movement has to like transcend generations. And there are so many great Black men. I just want to focus on the Black men for a second that are doing excellent, outstanding work. And we, as if Dr. Cross, if you've got something going on, I would be remiss if I didn't share it to my network. If I've got something going on and you like it, shoot, go ahead and share it. I think that the more and more that we support one another, oh, it could like expand into something greater than we could ever imagine. But we got to keep showing up to change that narrative. And we have to share each other's narrative. And we have to be supportive of each other's narrative and like just support, show up. Just our presence alone in each other's, like, whatever it is we got going on, it really is a lot of fuel in the tank. It goes a long way. And we would change the narrative. And then we need to be confident in what we're doing. Let's not wait for approval from anyone. Let's go ahead and be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time and feel a sense of pride about what we're doing. You can measure twice and cut once, but when you make that one cut, do it with confidence and walk boldly in it. I think that we don't need permission to be bold. We just need to do what it is that is between our two ears and just have some confidence in it. That's how we change the narrative.
Man, that's a great perspective. Just to go back from what you had shared, what you started the conversation with, or what you started the response with, and that is to show up. If we're going to change the narrative, we have to show up. And I like the quote or the analogy that you shared, where a lot of people died with their dreams, their goals, their hopes, because they may be waiting for permission. They may be waiting for the right time. They may be waiting for things to change before they start doing what they feel in their heart to do. And if, as men, if we're going to change the narrative, as Dr. Lester shared, we have to show up. and we have to show up boldly if we're going to change the narrative. And don't hold back and think someone have to give you or give us permission to be great, to contribute, to make a difference, because it's important that we share what we have within us without the permission. And the next point that you made that I think is really important, and that's one of the reason or the pillar of the Black male impact. And that's where we give each other a voice. We have to be willing to help to support what others are doing so they can share their impact, their contribution they're making. Because as you mentioned, there are a lot of Black men out there doing great work. And sometimes the spotlight is not on the Black man that's doing the work. And if we're going to change the narrative or change the mindset of the next generation, they need to see us doing the work. And not only doing the work, but as you mentioned, they need to see us working together. Because that's one narrative that have become like a norm where we don't work together as well as we should. So I really appreciate you sharing that perspective that we need to show up, that we need to work together, and we don't need permission to be who we want to be or to make the impact, and to make sure we die empty. Share as much as we possibly can with the world.
Sure. And one more thing I want to add to that. It's not a competition.
Man, that's right.
It's not a competition, because I think that some of us that may be in the same lanes, we think that it's a competition, and it's not a competition. I think that if there are two engineers that happen to be listening to this, engineer A, engineer B, listen, it's not a competition.
Correct.
Work together and dominate, create a business together, work together. It is not a competition. Instead of competing, let's start celebrating.
Man, and that's one place we have to get to. Realize that it's not competition. It's not a competition, as you mentioned. And because if you look, there's so much that needs to be done, and one person cannot do it. You may feel as if, oh yeah, I can do it, but no, one person can't do it. It needs all of us to make this thing work. And not just to make it work, but to make progress. And I think we will have more success, even on an individual level, when more of us start to achieve the success, because it now shows others that, oh man, you know what, this thing can work by working together, supporting and opening doors, as you mentioned, for each other, if we're going to create that change. Because I'm not to say we are behind, but there's still a lot that we can do and can accomplish. So I really appreciate you sharing that perspective. And as we go through this conversation, if I respond to what you have shared and you want to say something else, just please go ahead and just jump back in the conversation.
Ask for permission.
That's right. No permission. Because that's okay, man. Just jump back in and share your point. That leads me to my next question, though. What or who has influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on? I know you're in social work, and who influenced or inspired you to choose that profession?
I have got to tell you a funny, not so funny story. I just this week, Dr. Cross,
Yeah.
opened up my high school transcript.
Wow.
And in my core classes, I had about a 1.78. And like the overall, when you get to add all of the electives and things, had like a 2.0. And life was just tough. If I want to be as honest as possible. My dad passed away from colon cancer when I was 8 years old. And we were this middle-class family. We had 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. I'm a fan of house hunters. Just wanted to describe it. And life was good. And suddenly my dad passed away, and my mom was like, oh, I've got to double up. And I remember this vivid image of seeing her seated at the kitchen table and just like all of these envelopes and things. And I was 8, but I could sense the agony and of what she was feeling. And she never wanted to cry in front of us and things like that. So she was a very secretive person. So she died in 1999 when I was 16.
Wow.
And I got to spend limited time with my parents. And I got to tell you that the coolest thing I know about my dad was that he served in the United States Navy. Coolest thing I know about my mother is that she graduated from Clark College, which is now Clark Atlanta University, and she majored in sociology. And truth of the matter is that without my parents, it was like this big time struggle because it was just my sister and I with my niece, and my sister's 10 years older than I, and she didn't really sign up to be a parent of her younger brother.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for my high school band director and my college band director. And I want to briefly tell you about both of these gentlemen. His name is Dr. Michael DeQueer. And at the time, he was just Mr. D. And Mr. D really was this mentor that wanted to make sure that I made it, along with all of the other students that were in Cedar Grove High School's marching band. And there were times when I could call Mr. D and say, "Sir, I woke up late and I was just wondering if I could ride with you to school." Mr. D would carve out time in his morning to come and pick me up from my home, which was about 4 miles away. I saw a man, I saw someone that exhibited emotions. It was the first man that I saw that actually cried publicly because I can't remember what happened, but he made it okay to cry. He made it okay to be angry at times. He made it okay to laugh. And he was just this classic example of just what a man should be. So then one day we're sitting in sixth period, and I'll never forget it. We were playing jazz, and in walks Arthur B. Wesley. He's the band director of bands emeritus for Alabama A&M. Now, I told you I had like the lowest GPA I'd ever seen. And he walks in, and he was just like, he always like fidgets a little. He's like, I'm Arthur B. Wesley. I'm here to give scholarships. And I was like, man, this is my chance. So playing trombone, we're playing a little Duke Ellington, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to audition. I may not be able to get in because my grades are so bad, but I'm going to audition. And we step into a room. I play a song called "The Purple Carnival," and I'm just going down, da 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 down, down, da 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 down, down, da da da. It's the greatest performance I'd ever done. And then we had to sight read some songs, and then we had to play the scales and the chromatic scale, and then I'll never forget when he looked at me and said, son, tell me about your grades. I said, sir, I have terrible grades. And, really, I'm just looking for this opportunity to just change things around. He's like, when you say terrible, what do you mean? I said, sir, I have a 1.6 grade point average. I have not applied myself, but if given the opportunity to change, I just need a chance. He said, well, you sure can play, and I'm going to give you a scholarship, probation. He gives me this probation scholarship, 4-year music band scholarship to march in the band, check in from time to time about the grades. And I just want to tell you that seeing this man, like first it was Mr. D, Dr. DeQueer, and then it was Arthur B. Wesley. Arthur B. Wesley was he was a small frame of a man, but he walked around with a bullhorn, and he would tell you, you got to get it together. And he was just so honest. So I just really thank God for these two men in my life, because I really believe that if it was not for Arthur B. Wesley and Dr. Michael DeQueer, I wouldn't be where I am. I chose social work, and I want to just be brutally honest as possible. I got a buddy, his name is Felix Moore, and a book written by him was When the Helper Needs Help. And I really chose, I can't say that I chose it. I think that social work chose me. And the reason I say this is because the only reason I majored in sociology was because that's what my mother majored in. I remember not even being able to pronounce sociology. And my mom majored in it. So I was like, well, it was good enough. And my mom could have majored in engineering. I would have majored in engineering. I just wanted to be like her. And so what ended up happening was I just majored in it, and then I fell in love with it. And I just learned so much from it. And then, my first job out was being an in-home therapist and like trying to prevent kids from being in out of home care, being removed out of their homes. And I just fell in love with it because suddenly I realized that I was in the position that Dr. Michael DeQueer was in and that Arthur B. Wesley was in. And ultimately, they sent the elevator down to me. And then as I looked at all of these kids, primarily Black, I was like, oh, this is what's going on. Let me, in my capacity, utilize my education, life experience to help them out. And ultimately, it was the greatest thing that I could say that I've been able to do because of those men that influenced me.
Well, man, and thanks for sharing the story. And there's so much that you can unpack in what you just said with your experience and the individuals that helped you when you needed the help. Because on this journey, I think at times we may miss opportunities or don't get opportunities because we don't have the people around us to guide us, to support us, to help hold us up when we come short, because you may not receive the opportunity if it was somebody else didn't understand that I can't look on a person based on where they are. I have to look on the person and where they can be. And I think that's what had happened for you. And I think also when we experience life or challenges, it put us in a position to want to help others. And that's why you find a lot of people in that field, social work or social service, they too have had some experience that makes them more empathetic to others because they had the struggles, they had the challenges. And as you mentioned, the book, When the Helpers Need Help, which I'm going to ask you to share a little bit if you don't mind, if because a lot of times the book kind of tells you what it is saying anyway, because everyone who's on the journey making an impact, those people still need the support as they are out there impacting the lives of other people. But I believe, as you share, man, your story and your experience, and I can attest to just getting an opportunity because I myself at first wasn't a good student because I blame my circumstances, or I think because of my circumstances, I would not achieve much. And I started to believe what those people were telling me that I'm not going to. So having people in your life that believe in you, regardless of your situation, man, there's no measure to to those kind of experience. Or there, those individuals, man, they are invaluable. Who can see you beyond where you are, because that's important.
Yes. And I mean, I'm eternally grateful to these people. And when you look at your life, I heard this country singer that was accepting an award, and he said that the window is bigger than the rear view for a reason, because your life is going somewhere. Keep your foot on the gas and just don't look back. And I wish that I would have known like then what I know now, but
Right.
we never have that opportunity. So I think that, like Arthur B. Wesley said, yesterday's scores don't win or lose today's games.
Correct.
And we have to take advantage of the now.
Yeah.
And no, don't wait till tomorrow. Do it now. And like, and that transcends not just me, it's you, Dr. Cross. It's everybody that's just trying to leave their thumbprint on this thing we call life.
Correct.
And I just wanted to add that because it's like you said, man, I will never forget like the interest in all the stuff that Arthur B. Wesley and Dr. Michael DeQueer poured into me. They created this like Black man that I never knew existed. I
Correct.
never really suspected that I would be where I am today, but they saw it all along, and it's priceless. So I'm gonna get off of it, but I would never forget what they've done for me.
Well, that's really important. And as men, that what we have to do, we have to understand that we're going to come across, especially the younger generation, who may not realize their own potential or limits themselves because of their environment. So we have to realize how important what we can do to help the next generation and mentor the next generation, guide them, support them, and help them to paint a picture bigger than what they're thinking where they are right now. So, but I really appreciate you sharing that that story and your perspective on, the importance of seeing someone for what they can become, not who they are or where they are. And sometimes we have to give them a chance to prove that the greatness is still there within. And that leads me to my next question. What is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
I When I think about your question, I really view Black men specifically as superheroes and people that can really do whatever it is that they put their mind to. I view Black men as limitless. I view Black men as just probably one of the world's greatest assets. And I think that we can, when we come together,
Yeah,
we can change the world for
correct.
positivity. And simultaneously, I am aware of what the narrative is being said on the other side.
Correct.
I know that some clutch their purse when we walk by. I know that some do not like us because of our appearance. I
Correct.
know that some feel as though we are less than and lazy and stupid. And my experience, not just my experience as a Black man, but my experience in being among good company is that all of that negative stuff couldn't be anything further from the truth.
Correct.
What has to happen, though, is we must magnify mentorship to the greatest ability possible, because I know what it's like to grow up and not have a father because your father has passed away. But some of our young brothers and sisters have fathers that are incarcerated, have fathers that are not involved. And I know that that's a reality. However, I want to focus on what we can do
Correct.
to uplift these horrible situations, because people may develop learned helplessness and if they're in that type of tempestuous situation. And it's the Dr. Crosses of the world, it's me, and it's a whole lot of other people that have to get out here and create mentorship so that people are aware of their abilities. I want, like, Black men today, each one go back and grab 10 if you can and get out there and change the game. And I want to say that our narrative, that false narrative, is in music, murdering, money, selling drugs, chasing women. And I'm sorry, but that's just not the reality. And I don't want the youth, if there happens to be a youth that's listening to today's broadcast, listen, that is not the reality. If you have a business plan, rap about that. Rap
Correct.
it, like, go out there and create a plan and do it. You have sky's the limit. Nobody's holding you back. Nobody's holding you back. All you need to do is get out there and do it. And, that's the image that I want the Black man to be known for in 2023. Get out there and do it,
And, and
and positively.
man, you said a whole lot there where there's so much that we're doing that's great. But I'm glad how you acknowledge the perspective or the narrative that society may have of us as Black men. And it keeps happening, especially within some of these songs that, I'm not knocking the rappers and stuff like that, but when you glorify the falsifications that what was socially constructed when it comes to Black men, it constituted to reinforce the negative stereotypes and the negative labels that society have painted of us as Black men. As you mentioned, if we go into rap, let's talk about some of the great things that we're doing, because that will help to change the narrative. That will help the young people, the next generation, to realize, oh no, oh, that's not what I'm supposed to do. That's not who I'm supposed to become. Oh, I can become this. So we have to become mindful and don't reinforce the negative by doing the things that reinforce the negative. We have to change it. As you mentioned, right, for us now, we have to realize that we cannot wait on anyone to do for us what we can do for ourselves. We have to do it. So if we, as you mentioned, if we can grab a few young people to say, man, this is the way to go. And sometimes that's what they need. They need the support. They need someone to guide them, no matter how hard they look, no matter how aggressive they seem. If you show them that you care, because as you mentioned, some of these kids don't have their father figures at home for various reasons. And they will show, man, I don't care. But once they know that you care, they change their demeanor or their attitude towards you. Because some young people have experienced distrust for so long that, oh, you're not going to be there for me, just like how other people haven't been there for me. But once they know you care, man, it's a different conversation. You see changes in their behavior. You see changes in their academic performance, because now they know that somebody really care about them. And I think that is really important. And that's something that we have to realize as Black men. Yes, we know the narrative that is painted and that people still hold dear to some of those false narrative that was created. And it still continues because we still see them in the movies. We still see them in the music. So they're going to believe because we're priming ourselves by what we expose ourselves to. And so that's what's happening. If they see the negative, that's what they believe. Because you can't believe something that you don't expose yourself to. So that's one thing that we have to realize, that we have to counter the negative labels and stereotypes that is out there, that in the movies, although it's entertainment, but people are not seeing it as entertainment. They're seeing it as reality.
Ooh, yes, sir.
And I think, man, that's something that we have to become cognizant of. And that leads me to my next question. What change do you want to see in general and amongst Black men? I know you mentioned that we need to be more mentors and we need to show up, but what change do you want to see amongst us as Black men?
Oh, I think I can sum this one up in 3 words. Down south in Decatur, Georgia, you'd hear the old timers say, walk in it, meaning that walk in it, walk in your purpose. And if your purpose is to go out there and change the world, walk in it, unafraid. Like, go out there and do something. And all you have to do is take one step towards living out your dream and goal. And then the next thing you know, you'll take another step, and then you'll take another step, and then you'll start walking, and then you'll start jogging. And then next thing you know, you're going to be unstoppable. I think that, where I want to see people start daring to be a little bit more ambitious. I want to see Black men in particular start that business, brother. Like if you are dating someone and you absolutely love them, marry her. If you want to have kids, have a kid. If you want to go and be on the PTA, do it. If you want to run for school board, do it. If you want to, like, whatever that thing is, that is like you sleep at night, but you can't. When you wake up, it's on your mind. When you go to sleep, it's on your mind. That's the thing that we ought to be doing. And I just now, if we walk in it, I think that we will be unstoppable. But unfortunately, I think that some of us have allowed the carnival barkers to stop us from pursuing the goals that we want to accomplish because their voices of, you can't do this, you won't be successful, all you're going to do is fail. It scares us. So then we end up not even attempting to do it. So to answer your question simply, walk in it, brother. Walk in it. Walk in your purpose. Do what you know that you're called to do. And if you there's this cleaning solution. It's called 409. I think it's 409, 408, 409, I believe. And I happened to hear someone talk about, this cleaning solution.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a unique name. And they said, well, it's called 409. I hope I'm saying it right, 409 for a reason, because the formula had to be changed and manipulated into the cleaning solution that it is 409 times.
Wow.
So essentially, if it took this cleaning solution that many times to get situated, it's going to take us so many times to get to where we're going. And just because we step in a little quicksand does not mean that there's concrete that we can leverage on and get out of that. And let's stop being scared of failure. And because on the other side of fear and failure is success.
Right.
And, but you'll never get there if you don't walk in it.
Man, that is really profound right there, just to walk in it. It's a great reminder as well, because a lot of times fear stops some of us. And a lot of times we also worried about the opinions of other people. But if we're going to achieve what we want, if we're going to make the impact that we want to make, as you mentioned, we have to walk in it. We have to walk in our purpose, unafraid, and don't worry about the challenges that we may encounter, because that's part of the journey. We cannot be afraid of challenges. We cannot be afraid of the opinions of other people. We cannot be afraid of just the setbacks or disappointments or making mistakes, because a lot of people who are successful today have been through the challenges, but they didn't stop. They keep walking in it. They keep walking their purpose. And as men, that's one thing that we have to do. We have in us what we can to change the world. We have the ability to change the world. We can make a tremendous impact, but we have to show up unafraid. Don't worry about the opinions. And that's something that is going to stay in my mind, because whatever we feel compelled to do, we should do it. As you mentioned, that if you go into your bed with it on your mind, and if you're waking up with it on your mind, then you should be doing it. There is a reason that thing is not leaving you. It's what I'm saying. If you can't get rid of thinking about changing the lives of others or pursuing a particular purpose, it means you should. And sometimes we think, man, I have this idea, but how am I going to do it? I don't have the resources. Man, all you have to do is start. You will be surprised. Because then you start the journey, then you come across people with the resources. But if you don't start, you ain't going to meet those people with the resources to help you. And I really appreciate you sharing that perspective, because sometimes that's what stops most of us from pursuing what we feel compelled to do. And if you don't mind, I'm going to just continue with the next question, unless you have something else that you want to share.
No, let's just go to the next question.
All right. So my next question is, what was a pivotal moment in your life? I know you shared the passing of your dad and your mom, and those gentlemen who have really been your guide, your support, your mentor earlier. Is there any other pivotal moment you'd like to share, or if you want to expound on any of those, but a pivotal moment in your life?
Yes. So you fast forward to adulthood and you marry your college sweetheart, Shanika Lester, bubbling brown sugar of my life. And, we say, all right, we're leaving the South and we're going to Colorado. And
Wow.
she says, Colorado? Jason, ain't no black people in Colorado. Yeah, well, the opportunity, they gave me a job over the phone. And here I am, after I got my first master's degree, I drive over out of Huntsville, Alabama, leaving A&M and headed this way to the Mile High City. And I just felt like I was driving to my purpose. I was driving something I believe the Lord had called and put me to be here. Didn't have no friends, didn't have nobody. And there's this progression, we're always trying to progress in our career. And career was going great. And then one day we became parents.
Wow.
And I have a son who is just, I'm going to show the world my son so people can see him. That's the most
That's right.
handsome son in the world. Okay, no offense to anybody else, but my son Ellington, he was born, and he has a lot of people say disabilities. I like to say different abilities. And at the age of 2, he was diagnosed with autism. And because both his parents, my wife Shanika's a social worker, I'm a social worker, we knew that, the milestones that we were trying, that we anticipated, they probably weren't being reached. So we, were well in tune with the doctors, and doctors said, they have this thing called Child Find here, where they do like a developmental assessment of the kids, and then if needed, it elevates to a psychological evaluation. Well, my son at the age of 2 was diagnosed with autism. And you look at like people on social media, and everybody has like the absolute best life in the world. Oh, look at my new car. Oh, we're in Belize. Oh, goodness, we have this new 6-bedroom home. It's a rental. But oh, we have, like all of the things. So then you see this, you're like, well, look at all these people. They got these perfect kids. And at the time, if one has an immature mind, they do not recognize the beauty of different abilities.
Right.
So here I am. I'm in my Chevy pickup truck. I'm driving down to Parker, Colorado, and that's where the psychiatrist was. And they said, "Come on in, Mr." At the time, I was just Mr. Lester. I walk in. They give me this psychological evaluation, and it says global delays. You see your son's name, Ellington Lester. You see his birth date, and you see like all of these things that they're saying that he'll never be able to do. They're saying that he may struggle with walking. He probably won't ever talk. He probably won't ever do any of this stuff. Then they tell you to start planning now to put his name on adult services for long-term assistance. And my wife, she couldn't even come with me because she was just like, I just can't handle it. So I get the psychological evaluation, and I'm usually a boisterous individual, but that day I was so silent. And I just was like, okay, this is like, this is happening. I get the envelope, walk to my car, and you got to be careful who you cry around.
That's right.
And everybody that show up to your coordination or football game ain't coming to see you win. But
That's
I'll
right.
talk about that later. But so I get to the car and I just boohoo, cry, and because finally, what I always knew is reality. And I think that if we could just accept things early on, the emotional impact that we have when we're delivered the news, it'll probably be a little bit more well received. But instead of it being a setback, we found ourselves motivated as parents to create the absolute best life possible and have this age of possibilities for Ellington. Well, that was in 2015. If we fast forward now to 2023, my son happens to know every animal on the planet. I oftentimes joke with my wife and say, this is the modern day Noah, because this brother knows every animal. And we were in Keymont, Texas, and they have like this little miniature SeaWorld kind of thing. Just walked up to every animal, and he's trying to learn how to read and stuff like that. So I knew he couldn't sound out some of the names of these animals. He's like, oh my goodness, that's a da 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 da, and they're in Southeast Asia, and this one here is da 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 da. And immediately, those same tears that I cried when I read the psychological evaluation were now coming down, because nobody expected this young man to do this.
Right.
And he's on 10 now, but I'm believing that whatever it is he wants to do, he's going to do it. I think that we as parents say, well, you just need to go to college. You just need to join a fraternity that I pledged, or you just need to walk in the same lifestyle that we did. No, I just want to, and I believe it's 2032, go to a graduation and hear my son's name when he walks across the stage at his high school. And I want to go to, I want to go to Ruth's Chris after, but some people say, no, well, you can do better than that. But I don't care where we go. I just want to be there and see this young man in a cap and gown and celebrate the moment. I think fatherhood has kind of like shifted me as a Black man now, because now I realize it's not all about me. The promotions that I'll get, the funding the money that I'll make, the accolades and awards that I'll receive, it is kind of about me, but really it's something that I want. I want my son, when my time has gone, and when I have to be lowered into a ground, I want my son to say that, man, my dad was a great example. And I really appreciate him working hard, him doing all of the things that he did, because truthfully, the mere reason why I'm in existence and doing the things that I'm doing is to make sure that my wife and son have a place to call home and that they live comfortable. And that is the sole purpose right now of my existence.
And thanks for sharing that story. It is inspiring, and I know it's also encouraging to others, because at first, what the doctor says could have been accepted and say, you know what, I'm not going to put out any effort to make sure that your son, have the things that will make his life better. And a lot of people give up once they hear or get a certain diagnosis. It could be for them, it could be family members, it could be, their child. But just listening to you sharing that experience, where, yes, you felt the emotions of maybe sadness when you just hear the diagnosis. But as you shared, or as I listened, once he start talking and sharing with you, about the animals and stuff like that, that tears of joy also came, because now you're seeing far beyond what was diagnosed, and I think that's really inspiring to individuals listening, that look, they may say one thing, but you don't have to accept it, or don't live your life according to the diagnosis that was provided to you. Because if you live according to that diagnosis, you're not going to open yourself up to the possibilities, of which you did. So I really appreciate you sharing that perspective and that inspiring story, because I know someone's listening that can say, you know what, I don't need to lose hope. I need to believe despite someone's diagnosis. So I appreciate you sharing that, which is going to take me to my next question. What life lesson have you learned late in life that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
Oh, I got it. And I hate to admit it, but it took 41 years. People sit up there about to tell you something. It took 41 years to learn this.
Wow.
And it's really about finances. And I think that if you make $200 a week, if you make $2,000 a week, if you make $20 a week. There's a simple formula that I want to encourage your listeners and viewers to adopt. And it's simple, very simple. It's not, you don't have to sit down with those fancy pants finance people and stuff like that. I just want you to pay yourself first, meaning that 10% of the overall check that you get, I want you to put in a separate savings account. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just do it. It doesn't matter if you're doing a speaking engagement or if you're doing your day-to-day routine or whatever it is that you know, 10% of every paycheck that you get, go on ahead and put it into a separate savings account. Don't look at it. Don't use it for anything. And I guarantee you that over time, you will be so pleased with yourself because of just saving a little bit of money on the side. And look how it ramps up over time. And you can do this with any salary. Have to be a six figures person. You can be just getting started, just working on a date, whatever your vocation, whatever it is that you do, save the 10% for yourself. The other thing that I want to say is that another life lesson that I think is paramount that I must share is that some of us are not as transparent as we need to be with our partners about our finances and our credit. And honestly, there's freedom on the other side if we can just, like, first be in a relationship with someone that we trust and love, that we know have our best interest at heart. So that's the first thing. Just make sure that you have your partner is definitely in your corner. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you identify straight. It doesn't matter if you're LGBTQIA plus 2S. It doesn't matter. If your partner has your back, then you are already on solid ground. Then, as the relationship progresses into something even more serious, have the conversation to say, I need you to know my credit score. I need you to know that I am not as pristine and perfect as I present to be. And what usually happens is this conversation. It can go a few ways, but how I've seen it is that every relationship has a spender. Mm-hmm. And every relationship has a saver. Every relationship has the person that has economic wisdom. And then every relationship has someone that could benefit from some economic wisdom lessons. And what ends up happening is just this beautiful, beautiful merging of the two. And people that were not doing as well in their finances suddenly, see an increase. But it takes vulnerability. And it takes sharing, talking about the big elephant in the room. Sometimes it can be student loans. Sometimes it can be that credit card that we got the first semester of college, whatever it is. The last thing I want to say with regard to this question is health. We have to focus on our health and don't put off till tomorrow what you ought to do today. My dad died and he didn't get to see the age of 50. My mom barely got to see the age of 50. I plan on living a long time. And therefore, it took a long time because of just the mistrust that we probably have with doctors. And I know that there's some historical context that, I could add and infuse into this. But I just want to say that yesterday is not today. And I want to encourage anyone listening to get affiliated with a healthcare professional that you feel comfortable with. And go get the checkup. Go sit down and talk about the things that are going on inside of your body. I don't want you going on and putting your Sunday's best and saying, hey, doctor, yeah, I'm here, everything's fine, and not being truthful. I want you to say, yes, my heart is beating fast. Yes, I can't, I can't do this. I can't do that. Because on the other side of being transparent with regard to your health is liberation. They'll tell you how to exercise. They'll tell you what medication to take. They'll tell you what kind of diet to get on. They'll tell you what to do's and what not to do's. I think that I guess if I want to sum it up with what I'm saying, I want us to have transparent conversations with one another especially our not with everybody, because see, like I said, some people really aren't in your corner. But if you have people in your corner, I think that you would be demonstrating the love and affection that you have for them just by some of the things that come out of your mouth about your vulnerabilities. There's this artist, her, and there's this beautiful song, and I hate that I bring it up, but it's like it's talking about the insecurities that she has, and she's being so vulnerable with this prospective person. And if she, it's damage. Damage is the name of the song. And if I let you in and I tell you all about the things, you find out that I have gas from time to time. And sometimes I need some encouragement, and I'm not as confident as I put on. And I need you to have my back. I think that on the other side of friendships, relationships, and just overall being, when we start being more transparent with one another about our failures and some things that we aren't doing so well, on the other side of that is liberation, because somebody always comes with the key to help us get out of that problem.
Man, that's great. And you share a lot in the answer that is, I think, is valuable, from the finances, from paying yourself 10%, because you work for the money. Why giving it all away? Pay yourself first. And I think that's something that we need to take in consideration. And you also mentioned about health, how important that is when it comes to what we need to know, or what you believe the next generation needs to be aware of, the importance of the finance, being able to trust each other. I think those are important, and those are things that we have to make a part of who we are, and don't wait until it's late, especially within our community when it comes to our finances. We sometimes are not so financially literate. And the earlier we become aware of that importance, and as you mentioned, pay yourself first, I think that is so important. I think what I read in a book, I think is The Richest Man in Babylon. I'm not sure if it, I
I read
think
it
I,
years ago. Yeah.
I think it's in The Richest Man in Babylon. You pay yourself 10% of your earnings first, and as you mentioned, it doesn't matter how much you make. Pay yourself first, and sometimes we don't realize the importance of that. So I really appreciate you sharing those perspectives and life lessons that is really important for us, for everyone, for the next generation to be mindful of. And that leads me to my next question. Where can the listeners find you and help support the great work that you're doing to make a difference?
Well, I being a professor, I tell all of my students that LinkedIn.com is like this phenomenal networking website. And I give each student 1 point towards their overall grade if they can upload a picture and have a profile on LinkedIn.com. So for me, LinkedIn.com is like the absolute best place to like meet me and see what I'm up to. And that's where I met you, Dr.
That's
Cross,
right.
is LinkedIn.
That's right.
And ultimately, I find myself I want to be a part of the community and not apart from the community. So there will be different community events that quarterly that me and a group of friends do. It's usually not attached to some civic organization. It's just usually a group of cool people coming together and just doing something fun. Typically is when we work with our unhoused community members here in the metropolitan area of Denver. Right now, we are really, we got a mayor in office that really is trying to address those solutions with regard to the unhoused community members. And we just want to support him and anybody else that wants to step forward. But a lot of everything that we do is always posted on LinkedIn. And that really is like the absolute best place to connect and see what I'm up to.
Okay, yeah, man, that's great, and I will definitely put the ways to connect with you in the description, so they can reach out to you on LinkedIn. And I do believe LinkedIn is a great platform to meet great people and to network with individuals who are committed to making a difference. And man, I can't count the amount of amazing people that I've met on LinkedIn. Not knocking other platforms, but LinkedIn has become the platform that I look forward to engaging with people that are on similar path as myself, who wants to make a difference, who wants to make an impact. So that's one of the platforms, but I'll definitely put it in the description so individuals can reach out to you and support the work that you are doing, especially for our youth, because the support is needed, and whatever ways that we can make a difference in the next generation, we should. My final question is, what impact you want to have on the world?
I just want like people to, when it's all said and done, and when they lower me below, I just want people to, the people that care about me the most, to know that I was there for them and that all I ever wanted to do was see them achieve their goals and dreams. And my goal is to, being a Black man that graduated from high school. Now I know my GPA was a 2.07, and to be like kind of in this director's cut situation where I'm watching all of this go by because I'm the person that's in the movie. It's like, wow, I really believe that a rose does grow out of concrete from time to time. And like, I want people to see, if they happen to dig a little deeper and rip back a few layers, they'll see that originally I was this scared individual, didn't have confidence. But then because of life's crucibles, life's experiences, I was able to navigate those hard times and try to do what I felt was right with regard to career moves, with regard to just day-to-day navigation. And I hope that people can learn from my failures. And I also hope that people can learn from the things that they see that they deem to be successes. And I hope that I can be this transparent figure and just be known, renowned for sending the elevator back down and help in ensuring that the most important person in the room, it was always the other person.
And thanks for your commitment to being that person to let others feel valued. And that's really important because one, we know we none of us will be here forever, but the impact that we have on others lives on, which is important. I believe that we make this place better than we found it, that we help as many people as possible whilst we're on this journey. And I think that's what we should be doing with our time here, being of just make a difference for other people, help others to be the best that they can be. So Dr. Lester, man, it was great having you here on the Black Male Impact. Man, you have shared so much valuable perspective and insights and lessons that I believe someone will benefit from greatly. So I want to say, man, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cross, for this opportunity. It was therapeutic to sit here and say some of the thoughts that were in my head. And I just really want to say before I go, I really appreciate the platform that you have created. I see your page, and all over the world, people are viewing, and I just don't lose that. And I triple dog dare you to expand whatever it is in your mind, make it come to fruition. You are so appreciated in our space as Black men. You create a safe space for us to have transparent conversations, and it is an invaluable experience to sit down with you, Dr. Cross, and talk about these things. And now you're my friend, and you can't do nothing about it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Likewise, man. And I really appreciate that. And I'm going to commit to, well, I already made a decision to commit to this journey, this purpose this vision that I have, because I don't think it happened by accident. It was destiny for me to be doing this and creating this platform just to give a voice, but not just a voice, but I believe that there are times that we want to share things that we have experienced. And in the everyday life, we don't share what we have done or what we have overcome to be where we are. So other people can understand that, man, no, you can get to somewhere else. You can achieve, you can make the impact. Despite your challenges, despite what you have been through, despite your shortcomings, despite your bad experiences. So people need to hear that. And at times too, the everyday people don't always get to share their experience. So that was also a part of this. A lot of us are doing great work, but it is not always acknowledged where other people can hear and see the work that we are all doing. So that's one of the reasons, but I really appreciate what you have said. And yes, we will continue to be friends, man. That's right, because it takes all of us, and it takes having some good people that value the work that you do to make a difference. It always helps once we're on this journey to make a difference, man. So I really appreciate it. And listeners, as always, our goal is to bring individuals here who we believe will share information and insights that we all can benefit from. And as we continue on this journey, please continue to support, share in whatever capacity, so we can continue to do the work that we believe will make a difference. Thanks for being with us here on the Black Male Impact as we continue to make a difference.